So I wanted to make this video on some thoughts about my biological father. I don't know if he's alive. I don't know when my kid God forbid, he committed suicide or, someone murdered him or whatever, or to whatever that story is. I don't know. I sort of ponder him sort of on the back of my mind every once in a while. But I wanted to make this video because, I care for him very dearly because he's my biological father, and I know how that the harassment and threats that come from the gay community and LGBT community that are so violently threatening toward me, that they have had to have gone after him. And I want to say this because I'm pretty tired of being able to, or trying to sort of explain things, and it's just always going to work against me. You have no idea what these people are doing to me in every residence, every store I walk to, every food restaurant I walk into buy, every waiter, every guest that shows up, sits next to me at work, where I'm working with him, the bosses. I'm walking down the hall. It is every single person in the huge movement against me to confine me. No other hopes than to follow the path of being an entertainer and being placed in the public eye, and never going to school and following my dreams, and starting a new career path out of entertainment. But I wanted to talk about my biological father. Now, I don't know. You'll have to ask my mother, but my mother has dementia, so even if she didn't, I know that she has mental problems. Without a doubt, she has some sort of dementia. Without a doubt, there's 100% about that. That I do know. Now, I don't know how bad this dementia is. Now, I wanted to say this because when my father, Mikayla, you're going to want to hear about this. When my biological dropped me off, I don't think I've ever shared this before. I might have. But I wanted to make a video on this. The time that my biological father showed up to come pick me up and take me to McDonald's, and he was deciding whether he wanted to leave me and thought it was safe, that the father that raised me, Raymond Palomo, was safe enough to keep me there and he'd take care of me and protect me, and basically be the role-playing father. I've already made so many discussions about this, and I want to say this because my mother would like to know about this as well. When he came into that house, I remember him pondering sort of back and forth in the living room and kitchen, and he was trying to decide whether he was going to leave me there or not. And my dad was sitting on the couch, and he just stayed quiet. He didn't say anything. And he, obviously you have a little kid, a 4 or 5 year old kid, and that's what was going on. This alarm system I have on. So when my biological father showed up, I want to say that what I recall is he looked up at the crucifix on the top of the door that we have we had a crucifix, Jesus Christ cross, Catholic cross, on the front of our house, and on the front door and on the back door we had another crucifix, but it was made out of like straw or bamboo, and there were two different looking crosses, but we had one on the front door and one on the back door. And I remember him thinking, and he looked up at the crucifix, and then he looked over at my mother, and he was like, okay, I'm going to leave him here, I think. And he was looking at the crucifix, and he was looking at my mother, thinking that this is probably a safer place for you to be. And I want to make this video because I don't know if he's still alive, what his health conditions are, rather what happened to him. But I do recall him looking at the crucifix, and he was deciding and felt comfortable with the idea that that was happening. That was in our house. And he felt comfortable, and it wasn't, I saw him look like he was deciding, like, should I leave my son here or whatever? And he looked up at the crucifix, and he goes, And I remember him walking. I'll draw some pictures of this. If he's still alive, he can verify this. And he goes and he looks at my mother, and he's looking at my mother, and he goes, like looking up at the crucifix, and he goes, okay, and was like, I'll leave him here, and I remember, that very well. Now, I don't know if he's a reborn Christian. I don't know what I'm assuming, because just most of us grow up with Catholicism beliefs, Baptist, Methodist, or crucifixes. Most of all Mexicans do. No Mexicans worship anything else, especially very little any of the ancestors my ancestors of Mexico. So I thought it was important because, Mikayla, you would want to know about this, and he could verify it. I'll draw some pictures of it later so that maybe he can get some Jesus blessings. Maybe he can get some church blessings. Whatever his life is now, whatever situation that's going on in his life. Now, he did have a daughter that passed away, and all the tragic things, Mikayla, you would want to know this, and your mother, and my mother, and, but she has dementia, and I don't know who the psychologists are. So to help to try to relieve that situation, I'm sure that benefits everyone else, because, it's crucifix, right? It's the religion of Jesus. He died on the cross and cleaned the sins and wiped away all the sins of everybody for us to be saved or for access to heaven. And his daughter died. So I don't know, like I said, the church is heavily involved. I have been persecuted beyond anything that you'll ever understand of what the people have done with that church against me, and the crucifix against me. Most of these people that did this to me don't even go to church. Most of these people don't read the Bible, but they persecuted me, and they only used it as a direct, threatening, harmful weapon against my life. But I thought I'd make a video on this to help alleviate him, that he did look at the crucifix, so he may have been a Christian. He may have been a Christian, or may have been going to church when he was a kid. He understands the Bible, so I thought that was important, because he did get told in front of my mother when that happened. Now, the only thing that I'm a little kind of sketchy on is I know that we had that crucifix whenever he showed up at some point, because it wasn't until, because as far as I can remember as a kid, like as soon as I could learn how to walk, I was like 4 or 5, or whatever age kids. I was about 3 or 4 or 5. I could remember that crucifix there, and he didn't show up until I was about 5 or 6 years old, that I could remember. He may have shown up whenever I was about 3 years old, maybe 2 years old, to talk to me and look at me. So that I don't know of, but he might have, so I think it's important. They're shooting these electronic devices into my brain, and they're stalling me to tell you this information, so I'm doing my best to try to alleviate him, whatever the church is doing. But I wanted to say that because we've always had that crucifix there. I mean, I don't remember. I think that it was somewhere around 2 to 3 to 4 or 5. It was, as far as I can remember, I always saw that crucifix there. I think that they didn't get placed until I was maybe about 2 or 3 years old. I think I remember it not being there at some point, but it was so early and vague that it's hard for me to say that it wasn't there ever. So I just want to say that very clearly, because I do remember him looking at the crucifix. Now, I don't know if he showed up maybe whenever and it wasn't there before, and then my mother put the crucifix and he said, okay, I'll leave. I don't know what that situation is, but I just do know that he did look up at the crucifix, and he looked over at my mother, and he was deciding whether it was safe. And I don't know if he looked at the crucifix, but when he went back into the living room to look at my father or talk to him. But I thought it was important for me to say that.